roll call. Sam, are you good? Are you good to read the roll call?
What? Oh, I do not have a list of.
Madam Clerk, would you be willing to read the roll call? Oh, you're on mute.
I would be willing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Ramsey Stevens.
Present.
Sam Goodstein.
Present.
Joyce Brown.
Here.
Jerry Clairday.
Here.
Anthony Gallegos.
Here.
Philip Ross Monroe. He is absent at the moment. Let's see, Zaid Shamsi Basha. He is absent at the moment. Daniel Morgan.
Here.
Dave Wilson. Okay. I think that's everybody.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Vice Chair, would you do us the honors in reciting the pledge?
All right. Anybody who wishes may face north or put up a little flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
justice.
for all.
Oh, I forgot indivisible.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Goodstein. And then does anyone have a motion to approve or edit the minutes from our last meeting?
I think at the last meeting, I asked for, and it isn't in the minutes, I asked for copies of the public comments so that we could go over them, and it was said that we would get them, but we haven't.
Well, my apologies, Ms. Brown. I will accept that as my fault, and I will do my best to forward them as soon as possible. Madam Clerk, while we're on that subject, did we receive any public comments for this meeting?
We did not.
Okay.
If I have them all, you could send them to me and then I'll send them on to everybody.
Thank you.
But they won't be put in the minutes because the minutes really are only action, not other stuff like that. And plus the meetings are live streamed and then they're on YouTube, so anybody can watch and see what was said, etc.
Ms. Brown, in light of that, would you be willing to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second?
Seconded.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against, say nay. Okay, the ayes have it. All right, that now takes us to the presentation we have this evening from Mr. David Angel of Rank Choice. Mr. Angel, I'll let you introduce yourself properly and you can take it away from here. Please do your best to keep it to 10 minutes though, if you can.
Okay, sure. So I am David Angel and I am the general counsel for Rank My Vote Florida. Rank My Vote Florida is an organization dedicated to bringing ranked choice voting, also known as instant runoff voting, to all levels of Florida government. At the outset, we are focusing on trying to implement ranked choice voting at the municipal level, which is why I'm here to talk to the Charter Review Commission tonight. And so I think the commission may have some familiarity with ranked choice voting, but just in case not, I want to play a short 2-minute video if possible, just explaining what ranked choice voting is and how it works. Ms. Coyne, do I have access to the share screen?
You should.
All right, so I'm going to just go ahead and share my screen right now, and we'll watch a short video on ranked choice voting.
So what is ranked choice voting? In most parts of the United States, voters select a single candidate for each position on their ballot, and the candidate with the most votes wins. This is known as single choice winner take all. which can sometimes result in the election of a candidate who earned only a small percentage of the vote, even when the majority of voters supported other candidates. But that's not the only way of electing our leaders. Ranked choice voting is another voting method which allows voters to rank their candidates in order of preference. In a ranked choice voting election, a candidate needs to earn more than half of the votes to win. All first choices are counted, and if a candidate has a majority, then they win, just like any other election. If not, the candidate with the fewest votes is eliminated, and voters who picked that candidate as number one will have their votes count for their next choice. This process continues until a candidate earns a majority and is declared the winner. Let's look at an example. Here, you select orange as your first choice candidate, yellow as your second, pink as your third, and green as your final choice. The first choices are counted. Yellow earned 35%, orange 21%, pink earned 28%, and green earned 16% of the vote. Because nobody won more than 50%, the candidate with the fewest votes is eliminated, and voters who picked him as their first choice have their ballots count for their second choice. This continues until a candidate receives more than half of the votes, or 50% plus one. So what are some of the benefits of ranked choice voting? Ranked choice voting provides more choices, allowing more than two candidates to compete without fear of splitting the vote among like-minded individuals. Sometimes voters feel pressured to vote for the lesser of two evils. Ranked choice voting allows people to vote for their favorite candidate, not just against the candidates they dislike. With ranked choice voting, we see more positive campaigns and less negative advertising. Candidates are encouraged to reach out to as many voters as possible, including those supporting their opponents. They can build a winning coalition with like-minded candidates to earn voters' second and third choices. It's time to fix our democracy and make our elections work better for everybody. We can do that with ranked choice voting. Visit www.fairvote.org to find out how you can get involved.
All right.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us for the basic.
Okay. So that video does a good job of explaining what ranked choice voting is. The video already highlighted some of the benefits of ranked choice voting. For example, it allows voters to vote their true preference rather than voting strategically. The problem of a third spoiler candidate is probably not as important in the context of municipal elections, but it does help solve a very common problem in municipal elections where you have a very large number of candidates running for one seat. So the vote is fractured among many different candidates and someone wins with a very low percentage. It ensures a majority winner without a runoff, and it promotes more civil campaigning because candidates know that they can't alienate their opponents' voters by tearing them down or airing negative campaigns. But there are other benefits for ranked choice voting that would help Lake Worth that are not mentioned in the video. For example, because you don't need to have a runoff election, you avoid the cost of a runoff election. And in cities, this can lead to pretty substantial cost savings. In the largest cities, let's say in Florida, Jacksonville, you could save up to $1.2 million. That was the estimate that we got from a supervisor of elections. But even for smaller cities, like the city of Sarasota, you could save up to $100,000 per election. The city clerk would probably be more able to give an estimate for how much that might save Lake Worth, but it can be substantial, especially if there are frequent runoff elections. Other benefits, you do not have to do a second round of fundraising if you are a candidate for elected office because there's no runoff. I think that this might be very helpful for Lake Worth because as I understand, there's a 2-week turnaround between elections. And candidates immediately have to start fundraising once the first round is done if there's a runoff. Another thing that isn't a problem in Lake Worth that I've seen but has been seen around the state is that ranked choice voting prevents this issue of fraudulent ghost candidates that are used to siphon off voters and allow an opponent to win by confusing voters. This was seen in Miami. This has been seen in Southwest Florida and also in the Gainesville area. And I'm happy to provide some articles if anybody wants more information on that. And so those are the benefits of ranked choice voting. One final point I'd like to make is I know that this commission recently voted to recommend the adoption of districts for Lake Worth Beach. I just want to be clear that ranked choice voting is completely compatible with districts and doesn't add any additional legal or operational obstacles to that formulation of the election system. So I'll pause there. I think that's under 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Angel. Well, I'd like to start with a question. I'm particularly concerned about this committee recommending practical items to our commission, right? Things that our commission and our city can actually take action on. My understanding is that ranked choice voting isn't necessarily the most practical in the context of the state of Florida at the moment. So could you give us a little guidance on, if we did decide to go in this direction or recommend this as something that our commission and our charter eventually adopt, how do we do that in practical terms?
Yeah, so I think what you might be alluding to is the fact that there are other cities around the state, specifically the city of Sarasota, that has adopted ranked choice voting and has not been able to implement it. The original reason that they were not able to implement it is because they didn't have appropriate hardware to run the election. Palm Beach County does have appropriate hardware to run the election. The second, more sticky issue is that no software tabulator has been approved by the state of Florida in order to run a ranked choice voting election. This is just the software that does the counting that you saw in that video and make sure that everything is counted accurately. And the reason that no software tabulation, no tabulating software has been certified is because the state has suggested that there is a constitutional problem with running ranked choice voting in cities. So we're organizing a legal action in order to fix this issue. Every lawyer that's looked at it has said that the state's reading is erroneous. It's all a matter of just getting a proper party, hopefully the city of Sarasota or other cities, to bring an action in court to have a court weigh in on this and just confirm that our legal understanding is correct. Once that happens, if we get a favorable legal ruling, the state would adopt a software tabulator, and then it would be very easy for the city of Lake Worth to implement this for their own city. All they would have to do is adopt legal language, which we have available and which is widely used across the country in various jurisdictions. And then the supervisor of elections would just have to make sure that they understand how to run a ranked choice voting election using the software tabulator.
Okay, so assuming all those legal issues were taken care of, let's say the city of Sarasota prevails in their litigation, right? Ranked choice voting is now allowed by the courts and effectively the state here. What if our supervisor of election says, no dice, I have no interest in doing this, or establishes a prohibitive cost for doing so? Is there any way to know what would happen there or to manage that process?
So I think that this might end up being a contractual issue. Many cities will contract the running of their elections to a supervisor of elections. And I think that the terms of those contracts might dictate what the supervisor of elections can and can't do. I'd be hesitant to weigh in on a supervisor's outright refusal to do this without seeing what their particular arrangement is between the Palm Beach County Supervisor of Elections and the city of Lake Worth Beach. With respect to cost, the city already has the hardware to be able, or excuse me, the Palm Beach Supervisor of Elections already has the necessary hardware in place. So no hardware would need to be purchased. In terms of a tabulator, if it were approved by the state, the tabulator is offered free by the nonprofit that's actually created the tabulator. So that would be no additional cost to the city of Lake Worth. The main cost that the city of Lake Worth would incur would be an education campaign to make sure that voters understand how ranked choice voting works. So that would take the form of mailers. It could take the form of educating poll workers. It's difficult for me to know exactly how much cost that would be without seeing how much those things normally cost in Lake Worth because they're market specific. But I would say that every jurisdiction, including the largest jurisdictions in the country to the smallest that have implemented ranked choice voting, have been able to carry out these education campaigns successfully, sometimes using outside groups in order to help reduce costs.
Okay, so recognizing, Madam Clerk, our elections expert,
Yes, so actually, I have had a conversation with the supervisor of elections office about this. And there would be a huge cost to the city because unless every municipality was using ranked choice voting, we would have to have a standalone election, which would mean our elections would not be the same days as the other municipalities, and we would have to pay the full cost. Unlike sharing it amongst 39 municipalities, just our city would have to pay for that election.
So did the supervisor of elections say why that would be the case?
Yes, because the software runs because it's different. The way they tabulate everything it's different for ranked choice voting and for the current way of voting. And they can't run simultaneously.
I just have to say that I don't know how the supervisor of elections would be able to say that, because when any kind of voting system is approved by the state, you have to present the entire system as a package to the state for certifications. That includes hardware, software, processes, and expendable materials. And that hasn't been approved yet at all. So I just don't understand what basis the supervisor of elections would have for saying that.
Well, Mr. Angel, if I may jump back in here, I think we can all agree that this seems like it's a lot of hypotheticals at this stage, right? Stepping back, as someone who obviously is very sympathetic, and frankly, I mean, full disclosure, I'm very much in favor of ranked choice voting, right? But getting back to what, our remit as a committee is here, right? It's to make practical recommendations. We are looking at getting rid of our runoffs, right? This presents, what to me is the logical or best replacement for runoffs, but it also doesn't necessarily seem like something that we as a small city of less than 40,000 people can take on the same way Sarasota can right now. So is there any practical steps that you would advise for us at this time, right? What could we do that doesn't necessarily get us involved in litigation, doesn't get us involved in negotiating with our supervisor of elections? And I'm going to answer a little bit of my question here. We dealt with trying to move our elections in November. It was very similar to this, right? It wasn't something that was really made practical to us. But one of the things, we looked at was, asking the commission to pass a resolution or, make a statement to the Palm Beach County League of Cities and by extension, the Florida League of Cities. So I'm just throwing that out there. What can we do now as a small city that might help move this forward, but doesn't get us, too much stuck in hypotheticals?
Sure. So if this commission or the city commission, and I don't know which would be appropriate, wanted to pass some kind of proviso or some kind of resolution supporting the general idea of ranked choice voting, but perhaps not committing to taking that step, that's something that they can do just as a show of support. If they want to speak to the Florida League of Cities about it, that would be helpful. I think the Florida League of Cities has been hesitant to weigh in on this issue so far because they're not sure that there is a critical mass of cities that are interested in doing this. And I think that those would be the main steps that you can take without committing the city of Lake Worth Beach to any particular point of action, but to perhaps show support and move the issue along and let people know that there is a critical mass of interest in this.
Would there be an option for us to recommend going so far as to submit, I think, an amicus brief for your litigation? I mean, is there a way that we could just submit kind of a letter of interest or letter of support?
Sure. I mean, I think that there are ways in which the city of Lake Worth Beach, again, we would need to clear all of these other miscellaneous issues up, but there is a way in which the city of Lake Worth Beach is differently situated to other cities who are considering adopting or implementing ranked choice voting. I think the fact that the city of Lake Worth Beach is fairly small and the cost per runoff election might be more burdensome presents an opportunity for Lake Worth Beach to say to a court, look, there is an interest in getting this issue resolved so that if it is right for Lake Worth Beach, not saying it is, if it is right for Lake Worth Beach, we would at least like to know that it is, that the legal options, the legal roadblocks have been cleared away and we can actually begin to explore this issue. So if that's something the city of Lake Worth Beach was interested in doing, I think that it would be helpful, but I also think that I suspect that the city commission would need to sign off on something like that.
anything we're doing here is just recommendations to them, right? We're just presenting things that we think they should take action on. So with that, you very much answered my questions. Ms. Brown.
Yeah, I think it's quite important to consider this, and I think it's important for us to put an aspirational statement into what we offer the commission, saying that this is something that needs to be considered and that needs to be considered in the charter, as soon as it possibly can be done. I think we had a conversation, David, that indicated that they wouldn't have to hold off a few weeks to recount or recalibrate the computers, that there's software that can be inserted into the computer to get the vote fairly quickly.
Well, what it is that it's a software program that runs on a separate computer. So basically you extract all the data from the machines, you just plug it into the computer that has the software, and the software just runs the calculation instantaneously. And all of that hardware, the software and the process would be a voting system that would have to be approved by the state. So it gets a little bit in the weeds of Florida election administration procedure, which I apologize for, but I want to make sure that pathway is as clear as I can make it. Does that answer the question?
Mr. Vice Chair, do you have a question or comment?
Yes. Have any other cities in Palm Beach County adopted anything in terms of a resolution in support of ranked choice voting?
Not to my knowledge.
Mr. Angel, could you give us a list of cities that have done so more broadly in the state of Florida?
Sure. Yeah. So there are a few cities that have either adopted ranked choice voting into their charter or considering doing it in the near future. So the city of Sarasota, as I mentioned, adopted ranked choice voting in 2007, and that's in their charter right now. The city of Clearwater has taken the first step towards putting ranked choice voting on the ballot. In other words, there needs to be 3 procedural votes before something goes on the ballot for a referendum, and Clearwater has taken the first of those votes. The city of Gainesville has passed a resolution unanimously in favor of ranked choice voting, and they are looking to put a referendum on their ballot in November 2022. There are other cities that have expressed interest, but those are the 3 that are pushing forward for the time being.
Questions from anyone else? Ms. Clariday?
Could you give the website again? I didn't have my pen at that point, please.
Are you looking for the website from the video, or are you looking for Rank My Vote Florida's website? Okay, so
I wanted the one from the video.
Yeah, so the video is www.fairvote.org.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing or hearing no other questions, Mr. Angel, we greatly appreciate your time and consideration this evening, and I hope we as a committee can help support the cause of making our democracy healthier and function better.
All right, well, thank you so much for having me, and best of luck with your deliberations.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, everyone, as we agreed last time, the business of the day is what to do about our runoff elections. So, thankfully, I think Mr. Angel has set us up for maybe one of the ways we can handle that. But the floor is open for discussion and motions as to what to do with these runoffs.
Is a motion in order?
They're always encouraged by me, Ms. Brown, so please.
I move to make ranked choice voting a part of the charter of the city of Lake Worth.
Is there a second? Okay, Ms. Brown, unfortunately, I'm not hearing or seeing a second, so I think your motion fails for the time being.
Okay.
Let's maybe we'll take this a little more piecemeal. Is anyone in favor of keeping the runoffs? Yes, Ms. Clairday.
Okay, I have a question, and it may be a revisiting. I'm not sure. How much do we know how much the runoffs cost the city of Lake Worth?
Madam Clerk, could you please answer that question, and not just in financial terms? I think it's good for us all to hear all the non-financial implications.
So this year we had a runoff, and one other city had a runoff as well. It cost us approximately $41,000, almost the same amount as it cost for the election 2 weeks previously. So I've personally run the election. I've run the 6 elections since I've been there, been at the city. So we have to contact all the poll workers again to let them know there's a runoff, contact the polling locations, make sure people don't drop out of the poll workers. We have to do everything in a few days that I normally have months to do. So it's a tremendous amount of work, plus less people come out for the runoff and come out for the general election. And not 100% of the time, but I would say at least 75% of the time, so say 4 people were running, which actually happened the last election, 4 people were running for District 2. The top 2, the people that get the top 2 votes in the general election will be in the runoff election 2 weeks later. And almost always the person who's already in first place of the 4 people and then becomes the first place of the 2 people wins the runoff election. Now, there have been instances where there were 4 people running, it went down to 2, and the person in second did win the election. But more often than not, the person who's already been in the top spot does win the election. Also, in 2019, we had a runoff, and the person who was in second conceded. However, we have nothing in the charter about somebody conceding, so we had to have a runoff election. So that's something else that should be considered. If you don't want to get rid of a runoff, have something at least in the charter. Should the candidate in second concede, then the person in first is considered elected and there doesn't have to be a runoff. But it's I believe, a colossal waste of time and money. And for a city as poor as Lake Worth Beach, I'm sure there's a lot we could do with $41,000. That's just my personal opinion.
That's 2 part-time positions in the library for a year.
Ms. Clairday.
I'm just trying to understand better. So from what I understood from his presentation, he said Sarasota had adopted in what, 2004 or
2007.
Okay, thank you. But they had not implemented yet. So from what I understand, and I think it's a good idea, however, if we recommend this to our commission and it is adopted, then what's going to be the cost incurred? I didn't get a clear picture of the cost incurred because of the extraneous running the simultaneous.
It would be $40-something thousand is my guess. Also, when I did speak, I spoke to the attorney for the Supervisor of Elections office, and she said it's really more for the state legislature. So it would be done statewide, not municipality by municipality is my understanding of it.
I think, I'm sorry.
Ms. Clairday, then Ms. Brown, then Mr. Goodstein.
Okay, and so with that, and I understood from him that he said that the voting system would have to be approved by the state. I didn't get a clear picture if it was, the voting system was approved.
No, they are in litigation over that right now, Ms. Clairday. I mean, there's certainly a lot of things that need to be worked through in terms of practically adopting ranked choice voting. It doesn't seem to me like something that we could practically adopt tomorrow as a replacement.
That
But
was
it does
kind of
seem
my,
like something we could support, right? Okay, Ms. Brown?
thank you.
Yeah, I think it's important to say that we want to do it. I think the $40,000 may not be the case, Melissa. I think what he's saying is that you extract the information, put into another computer, and you can do that almost immediately, and the ranked choice is then dealt with. It doesn't mean that it will happen immediately, but if there's a groundswell of need for this among enough municipalities, of which we can be a seed one, then it will eventually happen, and it will again save us a lot of money, and it will be a fairer kind of an election. So that to me, it's a no-brainer that we do this, and that once they work out the software and the hardware, which will, as he said, become free to us to use and to do. He did say that, it would be supplied by those who are supporting this. Then we'll be able to jump in the minute it happens. We'll be able to be there.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Mr. Goodstein?
I would support ranked choice voting. I didn't particularly like the way you phrased it, Joyce, but I think it's premature for us to send that as our recommendation for a solution on our elections to the commission. And to get involved in the litigation at this point, we don't want to be on the end of anybody who has to pay for anything about that. That would defeat the purpose. I suspect what the supervisor of elections said about having to bear the cost on our own is, at the moment, to do it is a whole lot of complication for them. The political dynamic of this is that the current administration in the state does not support ranked choice voting, and the Secretary of State governs all this. So they're not going to change anything unless they're dragged into it. It would be more, I'm not sure it's the role, as you said, we're here to promote things that are going to get done. It might be that if we do a preamble, we could do a statement in support of ranked choice voting. The actual problem we face as a city is we don't want to do runoffs. We need a resignation allowance, definitely. That's a no-brainer. And I think the tough question for us is election by plurality is the way out of having to pay for the runoff, basically.
Not entirely, Mr. Goodstein. The city attorney did make a what I thought was very compelling suggestion, which was set a minimum threshold for the plurality, right? So that if someone gets 45, north of 45%, no runoff, right? But no matter what, you still, by at least having the safety valve of still having a runoff in the scenario where 4 people run and they all get approximately 25%, right? I think that's I think that's still, for me, that's kind of a tricky place to be in terms of how well our democracy is functioning. I'm not enthusiastic about the hypothetical of having commissioners who could have, if you have 11 people run, you could have a commissioner that won with less than 10% of the vote, right? I don't. That's a little bridge too far for me. So I thought the city attorney's recommendation of setting a minimum seemed the safety valve approach, if you will. Have
other cities done that?
He had, I'm 90% sure he said that that is what other cities had done or were looking at. Madam Clerk, do you recall?
I actually do not. I was just looking in my history book to see at runoffs about percentages, but we don't have that. And I do have to say that historically, there have been times when people run for several reasons. One, people run not because they want to be elected, but they feel that somebody should not run unopposed. Because before I started here, I think it was 2016, Pam Triolo, Andy Amoroso, and Scott Maxwell were all unopposed, so there was not an election. Then in 2018, I think it was, Andy Amoroso was unopposed. The other two did have opposition. So people run so that somebody won't be unopposed because they feel somebody shouldn't be unopposed, not that they necessarily want to serve should they win. And the other thing is people run to force a runoff. So I have nothing about percentages, and I have not heard, I know there are, of the cities that have runoffs, and there aren't that many, some have runoffs only if there's a tie. And I can't imagine that often there's a tie, and they break the tie by flipping a coin, which I don't think is actually the best way to break a tie. But I don't have anything in my history book about what the percentages were of, for each of the people that ran. I mean, that could be configured by somebody who has more mathematical ability than I do. So, but I haven't heard. I can certainly email the clerks in the county to see if anybody has that. But I think it's the cities that do not have runoffs, it's whoever gets the most votes wins. If you win by one vote, you win by one vote.
It could be an encouragement to people to know that their vote matters. If we had set a minimum threshold, what would people think would be a good minimum threshold?
I mean, I'm inclined to have it be high, right? I would think 45% is a very safe place to be, right? Because that means it really was someone who did get very, very close to a true majority in the first round. And I'll say one thing further. I think we could all, accept a commissioner who won with 46%. Can you accept a commissioner who won with 15%? Right? I mean, that's how I look at it. What is the threshold where you feel this person has actual democratic legitimacy?
I would look for the structure to be one that eliminates the third person spoiler effect. So I would go for a lower percentage. Historically, what we have seen is a third candidate will run, they will get 10, 15%, and then the lead candidate will not get their 50% plus one, forcing a runoff. So in that case, the lead candidate might get 40% or 39%.
I personally, well, I'd like to hear from other people. So we also could go take an easy route right now and just try and get a win on the board, if you will. And I think we may have clear consensus on allowing for people to concede in the charter, right? Would anyone like to make a motion to that end?
All right, I'll move that in any election, a candidate may concede and therefore allow the remaining candidate to be seated without a runoff.
Do we have a second? Mr.
Second.
Monroe? And Mr. Gallegos and Ms. Claraday. So we have a second, third, and fourth. Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand. Aye. All those against? Okay.
I'm sorry, who was the second?
I believe the first second was Philip Ross Monroe from my perspective.
Okay, I only need 1 second.
Okay. All right. Well, that's worth celebrating, everyone. We just,
All right.
if we had a time machine, we just saved the city $41,000 in 2019. All right. Yes, Mr. Goodstein.
No, I was adjusting the glasses.
Oh, okay.
And how do people feel about putting a general message in support of ranked choice voting to the commission? Some kind of general statement or possibly a statement in the preamble that we do.
I'm strongly in favor of not putting in the preamble because I think that might be a little much, but I'm strongly in favor of asking the commission to at least pass a resolution in support, a statement of support of ranked choice voting. I think that's the bare minimum. I don't know why we wouldn't do that. It seems like it could be a material and practical win over term. If you can't tell, I'm strongly in favor of that one.
I'm also in favor of that. The bare minimum being a resolution.
Mr. Gallegos, would you be willing to make a motion to that end?
I'll try. Motion to recommend to the city commission that the city of Lake Worth Beach adopt a resolution in support of ranked choice voting.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Thank you, Mr. Gallegos. Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those against, say nay. Mr. Morgan, you dropped off. Were you an aye or a nay?
I'm so sorry. I have really bad connection. Yay.
Okay, wonderful. All right, motion passes unanimously. All right, well done, everybody here. Okay. All right, so now the last big question. What do we actually do about these runoffs?
All right, how about this? To allow election by plurality if the lead candidate gets 40% or more of the vote.
Is that a formal motion, Mr. Goodstein?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Can you repeat that, please?
To allow election by plurality if the lead candidate gets 40% or more of the vote. Let's say 40% plus one.
Oh, really?
I hate to lose that plus one.
I hate that plus one. To allow election by plurality, should the leading candidate get 40% plus one of the vote?
Yes.
Okay. So we need a second.
Ms. Brown?
I wanted to ask about a mathematical solution as well, possibly taking the votes of anyone below the top two candidates and dividing them evenly among the top two candidates to see if either one of them then reached the 50+1 mark.
So, Ms. Brown, in my opinion, that gets us back into tabulation land, right? Where I think we're going to hit the same practical roadblocks that we continue to hit with the supervisor of elections. So I think that's better than the current runoff.
I'm not sure that you need a computerized system to do that. If you have the raw data, then all you need to do is take the the other votes and divide them evenly. I'm just,
Am I correct that no one seconded my motion?
No,
You are
not
correct.
yet, Mr. Goodstein. Mr. Monroe has. Okay, we have a
Okay.
second.
Then let's talk about it and
Okay.
see if anybody supports it.
Well, I'm strongly in favor of it. Ms. Clairday, Mr. Morgan, Mr. Gallegos.
I will vote. I will vote yes, but I didn't hear that we were calling a vote.
Okay.
Just trying to get your feelings on it.
Yeah.
I'm in favor.
I had a quick question. Have other runoffs been by like 35 that a candidate, had 35%? Like, I just don't want it to be, I don't know how it's been in the past, but if it's 40% and we still have a bunch of runoffs because it's not like 35, 36, can the clerk tell us anything about that percentage of 40? I think 40 is a good number, but I don't want us to miss the mark and then end up having a bunch of runoffs later on.
Currently, if someone doesn't win by 50% plus one, there's a runoff. I have no idea about, that's our threshold right now, 50% plus one, not majority, because it's majority in the runoff. It could be really close in the runoff, but not 50% plus one, and there's not another runoff. But I can't answer that. I just know if they don't get 50% plus one.
My personal experience is there have been situations where there were two, what I will, with all bias, call real candidates. And they each ended up with about 40%. And there was a third person who ran who was an outsider or somebody running because they wanted to promote anything in the world, from a political cause to they're just trying to get to know the town, or they were just dipping their toe in politics for the first time. And that person got maybe 10% of the vote, and that drew it below the 50% for both candidates.
Ms. Brown?
I don't think the solution gives you a clear run at not having a runoff. Again, it can dip below that, and there you are right back in the same position. You get 39% of the vote and you've got a runoff.
Unless the other person got 41 and somebody else got the 8 or 9.
When I'm saying that if the highest vote there is 39%, your entire premise is then lost. I'm not talking about a 41% person, because obviously they'd win. But if somebody got the highest vote was 39%, you're thrown right back into the same, kettle of fish.
Yes.
And you want to avoid that. And if you do it that way, and you say, okay, the highest winner might be 25%. And do you actually want somebody to win with 25% of the vote?
There would be a runoff in this case.
There would be a runoff, but you're trying to avoid runoffs now. So you're trying to figure out a way to avoid the runoffs.
My case is, and thank you, Joyce, for that clarifying question. My intuition is that this would avoid most, but not all runoffs, or a large percentage of them. I don't know. I don't even know that it would be most. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it would avoid the thing where, and people have really done this in Lake Worth, somebody's pretty sure they can get 40% of the vote and force a runoff, and they run a third person. They run them. They ask their friend, hey, get out and run. And it splits the vote. This is, you run someone, you're a conservative person, you run someone super liberal to split the liberal vote. That's the kind of thinking that goes on with this. So that then the conservative person is a runoff, and they know their hardcore people will come out. In Lake Worth, it was actually the non-liberal people, the liberal people who'd used this strategy. It doesn't matter what their stripe is, though. The third person as a tool of one party has happened in Lake Worth. This would avoid that.
I mean, it's definitely not a perfect solution, but it protects us from having commissioners who have 25% of the vote, right? I'm not comfortable with that, right? And it protects us from having needless runoffs.
And what about how much further can we get it? Like, how much lower could we get that percentage down? Do you think that would be comfortable? If 40 is the number,
That's a good
35.
question. The other alternative that we could do is go to a plurality vote. And the reason to consider that would be more people are going to come out in the main election than the runoff. So even if it's down, Ramsey, to 25%, that person will still have more people voting for them than are going to vote for anybody in the runoff. Almost guaranteed.
Well, that's what we get. That's what we get to if we just get rid of the runoffs, is my understanding, right? It defaults to whomever wins the plurality.
I was
Everybody
explaining to
mute.
Daniel.
Okay.
Can everybody mute? Thank you.
Well, does anyone, in recognition of Mr. Morgan's question here, does anyone have other numbers, thresholds that they would be comfortable at, right? So as I look at it, what is the minimum threshold of support that I'm comfortable with, knowing that a commissioner was elected by, right? 40%, I'm more than comfortable, recognizing that there would have been at least two other people in the election. I mean, at least two other people that they competed against. 25%, no way.
I don't think I'm comfortable below 40.
Mr. Monroe, do you have any thoughts?
No, I agree with Mr. Goodstein's proposal that 40% plus one should do the trick.
Mr. Gallegos?
I also like 40%. 35 just seems too low, and then anything under that is just bad. So yeah.
Well said in my opinion, Mr. Gallegos. Mr. Morgan, have your fellow board members maybe won you over a little bit here?
Yeah, I would vote yes on 40%.
Okay. All right. With that, unless there are any objections, Mr. Goodstein?
I don't exactly have an objection, but I wanted to ask the clerk, when she said that 50%, that plus one drove her, was that driving her crazy? Was there any substantive reason other than that it was problematic in elections? Or was it just like a annoying phrase that she had to hear too many
Yeah, it's
times?
an annoying phrase, about as annoying as 40% plus one.
Okay. I think it's part of Lake Worth's signature to have that, though. I would hate to. It's comprehensible.
I'm just the liaison, so.
Oh, I just wanted to know if it was costing us money or anything weird like or problematic. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'm calling this question. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those against say nay. Okay, the ayes have it unanimously. Folks, we're doing a good job tonight, if I may say. Yes, Mr. Vice Chair.
Mr. Chair, I would like to suggest a procedural thing to this Charter Review Commission. I would like to suggest that when we have approved a motion, that we ask the clerk to send it to the commission with the recommendation that they consider it for whatever the upcoming ballot is. Given that we are covering a lot of territory and that by getting it to the city commission, they're able to get it to legal and consider putting it on next March's ballot. And whereas if it sits on our minutes until after, in practice, after September, I think, if we don't get it to them by October or something like that, they're not going to be able to put it on until 22. So how do people feel about that?
I think that's a good idea. What I'd like to do though is ask our honorable clerk, when does the commission need to actually vote or begin the voting process if they want to put things on the March election?
So we would have to have the ballot language approved to submit to the supervisor of election by December 3rd. That is their 95-day deadline to get the ballots printed, et cetera. So working backwards, it would be by ordinance, which means there are 2 readings. So it would have to be, let's see. It would have to be on the November 2nd meeting for first reading and November 16th for second reading. Just to let you know, we are printing the agendas like 2 weeks in advance now, which means the November 2nd agenda packet is printed October 21st and the 16th is printed November 4th. My suggestion would be tomorrow, the packet for the September 9th meeting goes out. The next regular meeting is September 21st. And I would have to have stuff, it's kind of tight. Maybe we should aim for October 1st. I would have to have September 20th would be the deadline to get stuff on that agenda. My suggestion is, I'm the liaison. I would like to suggest that Chair Stevens come to a meeting and maybe do a presentation about what the charter review has been discussing, and then see if we can then at the next meeting the next meeting, I don't see any, like, we don't have to wait until later. See if they're interested in moving things forward, because you'll be presenting things. It's up to the commission to vote on the ordinance.
Do you have a recommendation as to which meeting that would be as of right now?
So if we want them to vote on it on November 2nd, I would do October 5th, I think, because also that's after the budget. So it's a new fiscal year. Things are nice and fresh and shiny. It's the first meeting of the new fiscal year. And then there'd still be another regular meeting to discuss things thereafter. So, I mean, I could put it on under new business as, because presentations are generally under presentation and they're 10 minutes. But it could be like a new item about discussion regarding potential charter changes. And then it wouldn't be subjected to a 10-minute presentation limit. You can talk about it and then they can say whether they want to proceed or not, or what they want to proceed with, and have the language drafted.
Mr. Goodstein? The clerk answered my question there, which was the language drafting comes after the commission's, the commission expresses its desire to have X, Y, and Z, and then the language gets drafted.
Okay.
Correct. The language is in the ordinance.
I think we've accomplished quite a bit as a committee already, enough that warrants trying to get some things on this ballot, because we also don't want to go through so many things and then put them on a November ballot and you've got 30 questions, right? I'm obviously exaggerating. but I like the idea of getting this done piecemeal. Obviously, let's also try and get things done sooner than later. So I like the idea of committing to October 5th being when we will present everything we voted on by then to the commission. This gives us 2 more meetings in September also to try and get some more recommendations to them in anticipation of that meeting. The only thing I'm going to note here is I don't know if I can personally fully commit to October 5th, but in that case, Mr. Vice Chair, I assume you'll be comfortable standing in for me.
That's
So-
not a problem.
Okay, all right. So unless there are any objections to this, everyone, I think, Madam Clerk.
I would like,
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Goodstein.
I would like one thing to a little problem, which is one of the things I'm seeing is we're not getting public comment on the specific issues. And if there was any way in doing it as a item on the, rather than a presentation, as a item where I came on to whatever you said it was,
The 5th,
Madam Clerk.
new
I
business.
said it would be a new business item.
Right.
There are no comments on presentations. So it would be a new business item discussion without a time limit where hopefully people would comment, and it would be advertised a week before. So hopefully we would comment.
If under that new business item, it could be specified the things that we had passed that I was bringing forward to the commission. That way we wouldn't get comments on every thing under the sun that might be in the charter, because the intent is to bring forward what we have passed to the commission for consideration, rather than to bring in all ideas about what should be on the considered by the charter review. You see what I mean?
Yes, and I would want to do a staff report because a lot of times discussion items don't have staff reports. I would want to do a staff report that would specify whoever, a presentation or discussion with the Charter Review Committee regarding the following issues that they propose to be considered for the March ballot.
Right. Good.
When would you need to have all those items by to do the staff report, Madam Clerk?
I would need it by September 20th.
Okay. All right, so then this gets to the, our other item of business this evening, which is when our September meetings will be. You and I had emailed at length, a comedic length, I will note, everyone, trying to identify dates for us to meet in September, because there are an inordinate number of holidays and city meetings in September, notably starting with Labor Day, which is when we would normally be meeting. So it seems that really the only 2 practical days are the 14th and the 27th of September. So unless there's no strong objections to those dates, I select we adopt them, but we'd adopt them with the understanding that that leaves us really only the 14th to hash out any more issues that the clerk would be doing a staff report on and would be presented at the meeting on the 5th. Yes, Ms. Claire Day. Okay.
I feel like we've already voted forward enough issues for their consideration. So that, not a problem.
Yes, Mr. Monroe.
I definitely agree with Mr. Goodstein. What is, but on the scheduling, what is there a holiday on the 8th? Is there a problem with the 8th?
Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, I thought Rosh Hashanah was on the Monday.
It's
Well, it's from the 6th to the 8th.
Sorry.
No worries.
And then we have Yom Kippur the following week, and then a zillion city meetings. We really did our due diligence on this, Mr. Monroe. I assure you.
Super, no problem. 14th is good.
That's fine.
Okay. So then, I mean, unless there are any, I guess this is the last time then, does anyone have any pressing issues that they feel we haven't addressed specifically as relates to elections that you think are simple, I will note, that are worth trying to get in front of the commission on the 5th in anticipation of March. Yes, Ms. Brown.
Well, if this is all about election issues, we were going to get a legal judgment on the nonpartisan question of elections. I would like to propose that, and I'm not making a motion, I'd like to propose that the elections be considered partisan, allowing us to identify for our own edification the positions of each of the candidates.
Ms. Brown, what I'm going to recommend is at this point, if you would just email the city attorney directly and ask him if he got an answer on that. And then depending on that answer, we can indeed discuss that at a later meeting.
Okay.
I think that's yes, Mr. Goodstein.
I would love that, Joyce, but I suspect that what we're going to get is, regardless of the legal on it, the supervisor of elections is going to say, okay, you're going to do something, you're doing something different than all the other municipalities. I don't know this, but I'm guessing if we're doing something different, we're going to end up paying.
I've been doing constant research on this, and I can't find it anywhere that, that doesn't allow us to do this.
Have you found any other city in Florida that runs its municipals as partisan elections?
I'm pretty sure there are. I think I've seen this. I think I've seen it before the Supreme Court as well. So what I'll do is I'll compile all of those. But I wanted to see if we could, I've been going into I've done the Google machine over and over and over again in every which way possible. And I can't come up with anything that says that we have to do it. And to the contrary, there are some cases that say you don't have to do it, and it has gone to the Supreme Court. So, but again, nothing is conclusive, which is why I wanted a real legal opinion. And I'll find one.
Chair Stevens, if you don't mind, because I have to let Glenn know about our September meetings, I can email him and ask him if he found any information regarding that.
Okay.
And Vice Chair Goodstein, I believe that should we be allowed to have partisan, there are no legal ramifications. Our ballot would just next to the name say Dem, Republican, Independent, whatever. I don't believe there would be a separate cost for just adding something onto the ballot that's we're already paying to print. Okay. Other than that, I don't see they don't have to tabulate anything differently.
I'm just shell-shocked from her presentation, that's all. I'm like, oh, something else is costing money.
No.
But we as a committee will most certainly still have to discuss, is that good for our civic health as a community though, right? I mean, so that needs to be taken under very material advisement. But yeah, Ms. Brown, I'm more than happy to discuss it, assuming
okay,
legally possible.
And Joyce, I would just point out also that anybody can change their party any day of the year.
That's true. What I'm looking for is complete information on candidates so that I can make my choice as to who I want to vote for. And that gives me additional information. That's all. It's just part of what we need to know to elect people, I think.
Okay.
All right, so I will contact Glenn Torsivia and ask him if he found any information about that, and I will email the committee. Are the next two meetings, the meetings in September, going to be via Zoom?
Unless anyone would prefer we meet in person at this point, I recommend we stick with the Zoom.
Yes.
Yes.
We seem to be getting better at it. Okay. All right. So then we have the 14th and 27th as our meetings.
22nd or 27th?
No, 14th and 27th of September. The clerk will need our final list for her staff report by the 20th. So I think the business of the next meeting is really reviewing what we voted on and confirming what is being presented on the 5th. And then on the 27th, maybe we can talk about community outreach engagement, right? If we do want to try and get people to make public comment and make sure that they understand that this is coming as new business to the commission on the 5th. And then on the 5th, we'll see what happens to our work to date.
I have to say they'll be very excited because after the presentation by the supervisor of elections at our August 17th meeting, where she very clearly said there couldn't be any ballot questions in November 2022, they were like, oh, wow, because the original intention was for you to meet and have ballot questions for November 2022. And I told the mayor and the commissioners that you were working very diligently to have questions on the March 2022. So they'll be very excited.
If only every advisory board met twice a month, I get
Well, I have 9 meetings this month because 2 of them are yours. So that's a lot of meetings.
Oh, thank you, Madam Clerk. You've been incredible so far. So we couldn't do this without you.
Oh, yes, you could.
I hope they pay you well.
Okay.
I don't get paid by the hour. Mr. Monroe, do you know what time approximately you joined the meeting? I need it for the minutes.
I believe it was 6:10.
Thank you. No, couldn't,
No.
5:10.
5:10, sorry. Yes.
Okay, with that, are there any other questions, any other items for discussion this evening? Okay, hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 All right, thank you, it's unanimous. Good night, everybody, stay safe.
Right.